Hi, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things, which is Star Wars. So I've been a Star Wars fan since 1997. I was in 5th grade, and that's when they re-released all of the original films for the 20th anniversary, when they re-released them in theaters. So that was my first introduction to Star Wars. I became a fanatic, and I've been one ever since. So because they came out in 97, or the re-releases came out in 97 and the prequels started in 1999, like I was already super excited for the prequel movies. And I feel like with Star Wars, part of being a fan, in my opinion, is being in the right target audience for when you're first introduced to it, meaning a lot of Star Wars fans are introduced to it as children. I have rarely met a Star Wars fan that has gotten into it later on in life as an adult. So the fact that they were re-released when I was like in elementary school, I was the perfect age for getting into it. But when the first prequel came out, The Phantom Menace, there was the end of 7th grade for me, and it just happened to coincide with my older sister's prom. So I think it was the day of her prom, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I went to go see it with my dad and my sister's boyfriend at the time, because he was a Star Wars fan. So we all went to go see it. I loved it. And then I saw it 2 more times in theaters. Now, I am in the minority of Star Wars fans who actually really enjoyed the prequel movies. And actually, The Phantom Menace is my favorite. And I really don't get all the hate that movie gets. So in this video, I'm just going to talk about a few things as to why it's my favorite movie. I'm not trying to convince anybody else. These are just things that are the reason why I love it. One is being introduced to the Jedi Knights as they were before the Empire, because by the time you get to the original series, they're like this mythic group of people. Like, you don't really, and Obi-Wan Kenobi's old, so it's like you really don't have a concept of who they were and how they operated. So getting to see Obi-Wan Kenobi as a young guy, Padawan learner, and his Jedi master, his teacher, Qui-Gon Jinn, is just like, you get to see them using the Force, using their lightsabers, like all these really interesting things about the Jedi. And then you get to see them at the Jedi Temple, and you see a younger Yoda, although Yoda's always old, but it's just like you get the whole lore and the backstory of who the Jedi are, and you really get to see what it means to use the Force, because in the original trilogy, all you're seeing is like Obi-Wan in an older state using the Force, and mostly it's like him doing mind tricks. But in this version, it's like you're seeing them like really actively use the Force in fights, in just a whole bunch of other scenarios. So to me, that's what makes it really cool. Also, that's the beginning of my celebrity crushes on people from like the UK and Ireland, because I was obsessed with Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson. So, yeah. And also, in keeping with that, I know that like when you look at the original trilogy, that's like the whole story of like Luke Skywalker's journey to becoming a Jedi. And so the prequel trilogy is supposed to be like the saga or the story of Anakin turning to the dark side and becoming Darth Vader. But I always look at the prequel trilogy as a trilogy for Obi-Wan Kenobi's growth, because you see him as a Padawan in the first one, then you see him as a Jedi Knight and a teacher, and then you finally see him as a Jedi Master, and you're starting to see in the last movie, Revenge of the Sith, how you then get to the older, wiser Obi-Wan Kenobi that we meet in Star Wars A New Hope. So when I watch it, I just like to see Obi-Wan Kenobi's evolution and his skills, and like each movie he just, he raises the bar and gets cooler, in my opinion. Also, my other favorite part of it was just how the galaxy and the world of Star Wars was expanded. We saw different planets that we hadn't seen before. Naboo. We saw more of Tatooine. It was more interesting. I mean, the whole scene with the pod race. And then, of course, my personal favorite is Coruscant, the city planet, the capital of the Republic. And prior to that movie, I had asked for a book of, actually 2 books about planets in the Star Wars universe. And one was like, it was illustrations that, I think his name was Ralph McQuarrie, the original illustrator for the trilogy. But like some of the art was used and some of it was never used, and like because some of it was for like Alderaan, which we never even got to see in the original trilogy. But it's a really cool book. It's like the illustrated world of Star Wars. But so I was like really looking forward to seeing the different planets in Phantom Menace, and it delivered, in my opinion. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about the prequels anyway, is that technology finally caught up with George Lucas's imagination, and it gave us all these wonderful new worlds to look at. Another thing that I love about Phantom Menace is it has my third favorite. I almost gave it a higher ranking. My third favorite lightsaber battle. So my third favorite lightsaber battle is the one at the end of Phantom Menace with Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Darth Maul. Again, that's one of those battles where you actually get to see how the Jedi Knight work and how they use the Force, how they use their lightsabers, how they... everything about it, I love it. Plus the music, Duel of the Fates, which is another reason why I like Phantom Menace. The soundtrack is awesome, and Duel of the Fates playing while they're having this lightsaber duel. Love it. Also, the costuming, which I was one of those people, I bought a whole lot of companion books for the movie. So I remember when I was in college, they came out with a book about the costumes of the Star Wars universe, and I was obsessed. And part of the reason why I love the prequel trilogy and Phantom Menace in particular is it introduced us to like all this elaborate, beautiful costuming, especially for Queen Amidala and the Naboo. Just, I remember I had like a big poster of Queen Amidala, this outfit that she had on in the first scene, in my room when I was like in 8th grade. Like, I was just obsessed with it, and my favorite outfit was the one that she wore when she went to the Senate. Just obsessed. The costuming was awesome. And then the last part of the Phantom Menace that I actually enjoy, that I know a lot of people could not stand and seem to not be able to let go of till this day, the Gungans. I had absolutely no problem with Jar Jar Binks. And again, I admit I was the target audience for that. I was like 12, so he probably didn't annoy me as much as he annoyed adults who saw that movie. I saw nothing wrong with him, and I don't see anything wrong with the Gungans. And let's address the reason why a lot of people have a problem with it. People think that the way that the Gungans talk is similar to Black people. And I don't care what dialect, what Creole, whatever you think about different dialects that Black people speak, there's not one Black person I've ever met in life from any part of the diaspora that sounds like Gungans. And the part that annoys me the most is that Black people are the ones that make this connection the most. And I'm like, have you talked to your own people lately? I don't know why people decided to go with that narrative. I'm going to say it might be because the actor who played Jar Jar Binks was Black and people bullied him for years, which was ridiculous. My opinion, and it is my opinion, the Gungans do not sound Black. Now, the Gungans do have their own language, which you can hear them speaking when you go to the Gungan city, which is another part of Phantom Menace that I love. It is so cool, underwater, everything about it is great. The way they talk is like anybody, if you're speaking in another language, you're gonna have like an accent. So it's like, to me, the way that people thought that the same George Lucas who cast Billy D. Williams in the original trilogy and cast Samuel L. Jackson, of all people, to be Mace Windu, a Jedi Master in Phantom Menace, and the actor who played Captain Panaka, who was the head of the Queen's security. The fact that people thought that George Lucas, who cast all these strong Black characters in his movies, would then also wait until that movie to create a racist stereotype of a Black person in the creation of an alien, I feel like that was just one of those moments where people were grasping at straws. But the reason why I love the Gungans is because this is their planet. Naboo is their planet. They're indigenous to it. They had their own military. They had their own cities. They were amphibians, so they could live in the water. They could live on land. When the droids attacked Naboo, they got up on out of their underwater city. They had a hidden place on land. They were the ones that the Naboo had to go beg to help them in the final battle. It's like, put some respect on the Gungans, okay? I love them. They're still my favorite part of the Phantom Menace. I don't care what nobody says. But that's just a quick run through of why I personally like The Phantom Menace. And it's still always going to be my favorite from the prequel trilogy. So, but then again, there's a lot of movies that I like that are like usually the unpopular movies. So I might do other videos about it, because my favorite movie from the original trilogy is Return of the Jedi. And in a whole nother fandom, my favorite Batman movie is Batman Forever. So, and I feel like the thing with any type of fandom or media is you can like whatever you like, and you can have criticisms of whatever you want. But sometimes I feel like certain movies get a specific type of criticism and people stick to it without ever trying to acknowledge or enjoy any other part of the movie. And that's how I feel about the way people treated Phantom Menace. But just for fun, thought I'd throw that out there. I was going to maybe save this till Star Wars Day, but that's months away, and who knows where we're going to be in a couple of months. So this is just a fun video for me. And if you're a Star Wars fan, I hope you enjoyed it. If you're not a Star Wars fan, you probably think I'm crazy. But yeah, Phantom Menace, favorite prequel movie. Get into it.